What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the TLZ podcast. I'm your host, Tony, and this is where we sit down with elite athletes and professionals to break down the journey, the mindset, and what it really takes to compete at the highest level. As we always say here, when you train your mind, you change your game. Before we get started, if you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you hit that like button and the subscribe button down below. Truly helps the channel grow. Also, don't forget to follow us on our socials at the TLZ podcast to stay up to date on upcoming guests and highlights. Now let's get into today's episode. All right, guys, today is going to be a host-only episode. I feel like it's been way too long since we last did a host-only episode, and so much has happened since then. We got so many new guests, so many different perspectives that came on the podcast. So there's a lot to talk about, and also some experiences that I went through that I want to share and give you guys my thoughts. So there's definitely a lot of things to go over. Recently, I went to JIT, which is a Junior International Trials for USA badminton players. It's the tryouts for Junior Pan Ams and Junior World Championships. So it's definitely one of the most significant tournaments of the year, and all the top junior players will go and compete in that tournament. So it was very significant, and I had a great time meeting everybody in Boston. So I definitely want to touch on that. And also, of course, the huge bombshell that dropped by Viktor Axelsen himself announcing his retirement. Of course, it's sad to see him go, but we definitely want to touch on his career and talk a little bit about all the achievements that he had and also the contributions that he made to badminton. And of course, since he has wrapped up his career, we can finally have this concrete conversation on the greatest of all time men's singles player, right? We're going to be talking about my top 5 best men's singles players of all time list, and also going to touch base on some of the highlights that we saw in the last few episodes with some of our new guests, from players to umpires. I think there are so many new perspectives and so many unique stories to discuss. So let's jump right into it. Starting off with JIT, right? Because JIT is a huge tournament for USA badminton, and it was so cool to see all the top players compete again on the big stage. And besides the weather, everything was great. Obviously, in Boston, this time of year is still pretty chilly, especially compared to California. So definitely should have brought more warm clothes for sure. But, it is what it is. It was still great to see everybody and see some familiar faces. And this time, like I said, I went as a coach instead of a player. So it's quite different. I went as a private coach for one of my players. We actually did really well in the tournament. He won U17 boys doubles gold medal. So shout out to Ethan for that accomplishment. It's a huge, huge accomplishment. And I know you worked very hard for it. So huge congratulations to you again. Super proud of what you've been able to do. But also, we saw some familiar faces. We saw Audrey and Jasmine, our recent guests on the podcast, them in person for the first time. So it was great to catch up just to see what they've been up to. And obviously they've been traveling a lot, right? Playing these different international tournaments. And it was actually really fun to see them in person. And to be honest, I actually, for some reason, I didn't think they were as tall as they were going to be. I feel like both Jasmine and Audrey were taller than me almost. So that really shocked me, to be honest, when I first saw them. But it was great catching up with them, talking to them, and just, hanging out. But, one thing that stood out to me this time when I went to JIT is that actually a lot of the junior players recognized me from the podcast, and that actually surprised me a little. I'm really happy to see that, a lot of junior players are watching the podcast and finding it helpful. But it's great to, meet fans and there's some feedback on the show. So for the people that said hi at the tournament, shout out to you guys. Really appreciate you guys watching the show, and thank you for coming up and just saying hi. But one thing that stood out for sure is that everybody who came up just called me TLZ podcast, right? I went to JIT and people weren't even calling me by my name. They were calling me TLZ podcast everywhere I went. And at first I thought, maybe they were just doing it for fun. But then I realized that they actually don't know my name, because I never introduced myself in the intros and the outros, throughout the episode. I never say my name. So that's why if you guys rewatch the intro for this video, you'll see that I actually do a quick introduction just to put my name in there, make sure everybody at least knows who I am. But yeah, my name is Tony. For the people that don't know, I'll take this opportunity to give a quick background on, who I am. I used to play for USA Badminton, right? And for this tournament, I've made it to Pan Ams 8 years in a row. And also I made it to Junior World Championships. I've won Pan Ams. Also, I won Junior Nationals 9 times as well. So I'm very familiar with the USA badminton circuit, especially the junior circuit, right? And for my family, my mom is a world champion, played for Team China. She also won Uber Cup, all the Super Series Opens, you name it. So she's obviously very big in the badminton space. And then my grandpa was actually one of the first coaches for badminton in China. So he's also pretty well known in the coaching space. And my uncle's a coach. My dad's a coach. My brother, who's now the coach also at the new 50 court Bingtang gym in Fremont. So everybody basically in my family is a coach, and badminton runs in our blood. So trust me when I say that I know the community pretty well. So yeah, it was great to see everybody again. But for the people that don't know, that is my background. That's why I also have this deep passion for the sport and why I want to grow it so much for the US and also around the world, just to share my love of the sport with everybody. But yeah, back to JIT. Watching players play at JIT and coaching there. If there's one thing current American junior players can work on is badminton IQ. Like I've watched countless games, like especially U15, U17, U19, I feel like badminton IQ becomes such a important and significant aspect of your game, especially when you're in that age group. Everybody is, fast, is strong, right? Everybody can play, but do you have the badminton IQ to use the things that you have in your arsenal, right? Be able to use the skills that you have. And I saw a lot of rallies for these older players. And sometimes you just wonder, like, what were they thinking when they were hitting that shot? Because it doesn't make sense, especially some of the cross-court shots that a lot of people are hitting. Like, it's making their life difficult because they're having to run the extra lane. So badminton IQ comprises of two things: shot selection, where are you choosing to hit? Why did you hit there? And where you should get ready afterwards, right? How do you prepare for the next shot is the second part. And this is all part of just using your knowledge of the game to your advantage. And as you get higher and higher in level, it becomes more and more important to develop your badminton IQ. And I think that's something that every American junior player can work on. You can do this by watching professional games, right? Professional players, or just watching your own games, right? Analyzing your game. What could you have done better in that rally? What shot could you have done differently, right? And how it would produce a different outcome. I think these are very, very important points for players to focus on in the coming years. And the other thing that shocked me really is the type of warm-up that I'm seeing for these junior players, like no matter the age group when they go on the court, right? Obviously, when you first go on the court with your opponent, you have these like 2 minutes of warm-up back and forth. And the way they do warm-up is wrong. Like the way most junior players warm up right now is completely wrong. I want people to understand that. Like when you guys are going on the court, I see players lifting for each other and letting their opponent take their time and doing stationary drops while they're standing there lifting. And then they take turns. The opponent starts lifting and they start dropping. Everybody's stationary, just standing there lifting for each other. And I could not believe it because like you don't see that in the professional space. We didn't used to do that when we played junior badminton. It doesn't make any sense because number one, you don't want to help your opponent develop a rhythm, right? Get a feeling for the shot. Like you don't want that to happen. Of course, we want to show good sportsmanship, but we're competitive too. And we want to give ourselves the best shot at winning the game, right? Especially right before the match and you're having your encore warm-up. You should not be helping your opponent finding feeling in their hands, right? The most important thing you should prioritize is making sure that you get a good feel of the court, maybe do some clears, a few clears, and then to do some drives, right? Just get your reflexes warmed up, and then maybe some rallying. Do multiple different kinds of shots, clear, drop, smash, tumble, lift, whatever. Do everything, right? Make sure you got a good feel on your hands. And that's it. We should not be lifting and dropping for each other. It just doesn't make any sense at all. You don't want to be helping your opponent get a feeling. And also, both of you guys are stationary. You're just standing there, right? So you're not getting warmed up either. Everybody's very cold, right? Just standing there lifting and dropping for each other. So I hope, junior players can make that adjustment after watching this video. When you guys go on the court to warm up, this is more of just being competitive, being professional. Instead of doing lifting and dropping, please do your drives, do your clears, do your rallies. Okay. These will help you warm up, find a good feeling for your hands and help you perform well in the match. All right. So that's definitely something that we need to make a change in for sure. All right. And, besides that, I think the junior badminton level in the US is still competing at a very high level. I saw some amazing players, some new players that I've never met before, and they really surprised me with the skill that they bring on the court. So definitely shout out to all the junior players for the level that they're competing at and the effort that they're putting in and the fighting spirit that they're displaying. It's always fun to see and always fun to watch. But, apart from JIT, I do want to get into the next segment, which is Viktor Axelsen's retirement. Obviously, we're very sad to see him go, but we wish him all the best in his upcoming next chapter and happy retirement to him. He deserved it. He's one of the most accomplished badminton players, right, of all time, winning 2 gold medals for Olympics and 2-time world champion and just so many other titles under his belt. So it's a very well-deserved retirement. And to be honest, I was kind of surprised when I saw his announcement because like we all know he was injured, right, for a long time and he's been trying to get back. But I kind of expected him to come back, play a few tournaments, at least finish the season, and then maybe announce his retirement in the middle, but still finish it off. But it seems that the injury, it might be just too much for him to come back to the court, which is very unfortunate. Obviously, we want to see him play some more. But, hopefully he's able to heal completely after taking some time off. And obviously, he's still going to be in the badminton space. So we're super excited to see what's going to be coming out next from his team. But obviously Viktor Axelsen didn't just have a great career, right? He changed what men's singles look like. And he's one of the greatest players of all time in men's singles. And fun fact is that I randomly got a birthday message from Viktor Axelsen and I wasn't expecting it at all. Like when I was, I think 12 years old, my mom, who was the head coach for Team USA at Uber Thomas Cup, she actually met up with Viktor Axelsen, had a conversation with him. And at the time, it was actually my brother and I's birthday because our birthdays are so close to each other. And my mom asked Viktor to film this like birthday message for us that we had complete no idea about. And she showed it to us when she got back to the US. And we were like ecstatic. It was crazy to see Viktor, wishing us a happy birthday, telling us to keep working hard in badminton. And so Viktor, if you're watching this, my brother and I, we really appreciate you doing that for us. It's such an amazing gesture. And just know that we will always remember that for the rest of our lives. And it's just an amazing, amazing act by an amazing player and in person. So thank you, Viktor, from the bottom of our hearts for everything that you've done. But, now that Viktor Axelsen has retired, we can finally have a real GOAT conversation. And here's my all-time top 5 men's singles list. And I know some people are not going to agree with me, and that's okay. Okay, this is just my opinion. If you guys disagree or agree, make sure you let me know in the comment section down below. So here we go. In the number 1 spot, I think it's unanimous. The GOAT, the legend himself, the Michael Jordan of badminton, Ling Dan in the number 1 spot, the greatest player of all time, 2-time Olympic gold medalist, 5-time world champion, 6-time All England champion, obviously multiple Thomas Cup titles, Asian Games gold, only player to complete the Super Grand Slam. So there's no debate about the number 1 spot. I think like Ling Dan is the ultimate GOAT for badminton, especially for men's singles. So number 1 secured. At the number 2 spot, I have Viktor Axelsen, our recently retired Viktor Axelsen. 2-time Olympic gold medalist, 2-time world champion, All England champion, multiple European titles, obviously, and Olympic bronze. Don't forget to mention that because obviously that's a very, very good accomplishment as well. And just overall, we all know how Viktor plays. He utilizes his length on the court, right? His patience, absolutely amazing player. I believe the top 2 best players for men's singles of all time. And I will put him up against anybody, honestly. So I put Viktor at the number 2 spot. At the number 3 spot, have Chen Long from Team China, Olympic gold medalist in 2016, being, Ling Dan and Li Changwei, obviously past their prime a little bit, but still very, very significant accomplishment, right? Not an easy path to gold for sure. Obviously Olympic silver in 2020 and a 2-time world champion, All England champion, multiple Thomas Cup titles. Just an absolute amazing player, amazing on defense, right? His defense is spectacular. And his patience for long rallies and obviously his sudden attack is just sublime, right? Absolutely amazing player, very complete as a player. So I have him at number 3. Number 4 for my all-time men's singles list, I have Kento Momota from Team Japan. Absolutely amazing player, super fast, kind of similar to Li Changwei, right, in his playing style, but very explosive. 2-time world champion. No Olympic medals, unfortunately for Kento, obviously because of the things that he went through, the ban and the car accident. But All England champion, 11 titles in 2019, which is a record for a single season. Absolutely amazing. And obviously he held the number 1 world ranking spot for a very extended period of time. So I have Kento Momota at number 4. I think without the ban and also the unfortunate car accident that he had to go through, he would be even higher on this list. But unfortunately, because of those, we put him at 4 and pay his respects, right? And finally, at the number 5 spot, I have Taufik Hidayat from Indonesia, an Olympic gold medalist in 2004 in Athens. Absolutely iconic win. World champion in 2005, 2-time Asian Games gold. One of the most technically gifted players of all time, right? Just an inspiration, an icon. The influence that he had on the game is undeniable. So shout out to Tawfiq. But yeah, this is my top 5 men's singles list. And if you disagree, make sure you let me know who you guys have for top 5. All right. But I think an honorable mention for sure. And I think the name that everybody for sure would be pointing out that is missing on the list is Lee Chong-wei. I'm a huge fan of Lee Chong-wei. Love Lee Chong-wei. Great player, great person. Of course, amazing career that he had. A winner, right? But the reason I left him out of the top 5 is I feel like for you to be qualified to be in the top 5 greatest of all time list for men's singles, you have to have at least one world championship or one Olympic, right? I feel like that's the basic baseline, like threshold for you to enter into this list because these are the top tournaments for badminton, right? And obviously Lee Chong-wei has won like All Englands and many other top tournaments, but I feel like world championship and Olympic gold is like winning the NBA finals. That is the ultimate accomplishment for any badminton player. And unfortunately for Lee Chong-wei, he just hasn't been able to accomplish that. He's won many silvers for Olympic and many silvers for world champion, but ultimately gold is different compared to silver. It takes a different breed to win gold on the biggest stage with the pressure and the stake on the line, right? So that is why I left Lee Chong-wei out, and some people may argue like, he was playing the most difficult era with Ling Dan, Chen Long, like basically some of the greatest of all time men's singles players, right? So it makes sense that sometimes he's going to fall short. But the thing is, Lee Chong-wei has beaten Ling Dan before, right? In All England finals or in other tournaments. But for some reason, he hasn't been able to secure one world champion title or one Olympic title despite that, right? So he has the ability to win, but for some reason, he has a mental block whenever it comes to these big tournaments. And I think that's something that we can't argue, right? But, huge respects for Lee Chong-wei. Love the way he plays. Absolutely amazing player. Definitely one of the greatest players of all time. Huge influence in the game, but not in my top 5 list based on my analysis. So that wraps up my greatest of all time top 5 list for men's singles. I think it's pretty comprehensive. Let me know if you guys agree or disagree. But yeah, wishing all the best again to Viktor Axelsen in his retirement. Can't wait to see the amazing things that you're going to be coming out with in the coming years. Wishing you all the best. But yeah, moving forward, I do want to talk about some of the recent guests that we had on. We had some really strong guests recently, and there are a few things that really stood out to me. We can start from the beginning a little bit. Obviously, we had Neil from Canada, as well as Jamie from USA Badminton, both seasoned players giving us a lot of insights on their experience, right? And all the different things that they went through to give younger generations a chance to learn from their mistakes and from the stories that they shared. And also talking about players from USA Badminton, right? We have Jenny Guy, who recently came on the podcast, one of the best players in USA Badminton right now on the world stage. She mentioned in the podcast that she has never won a Pan Am title before, but recently, a few days ago, she won her very first Pan Am title with Presley, claiming her rightful spot on the top for Pan Am region. I think it's long overdue that she win the Pan Am title. So shout out to Jenny for finally accomplishing that and predicting that on the podcast. Looking forward to all the amazing things that you're going to be accomplishing soon in the coming months. And also talking about some of the top players in USA Badminton, we also had Garrett Tan on, one of the top rising stars right now in USA Badminton, just absolutely crushing it, right? Because Garrett is younger in age, I think there's a lot of things that he brought up about school, about his training that I think a lot of junior players can relate with. And I think that's really helpful for them to just see somebody their age competing on the highest level and his mindset going in. Because obviously, the one thing that stood out from Garrett's podcast and his episode is his mindset, the level of maturity that he's able to bring to the table. It was absolutely amazing. It just really surprised me to see the mindset that he has towards badminton. So shout out to Garrett for sharing his mentality with us and with the younger generation. Aside from them, we also had Miles Krosky come on the podcast, the newly crowned para world champion, our very first world champion on the podcast. So shout out to Miles for coming on again. He brought on some just amazing stories. I mean, just him reviewing that match that he had against his partner in the Olympics, the dives that he was doing on the court, and the effort that he was showing on the court, and being able to give us this detailed behind the scenes on what was happening and the development of para badminton, I think is just absolutely amazing. And I think Miles is such an inspiration to all the para athletes in the US and just around the world, and his ability to stay positive and just being so bright about life and everything that he has accomplished and the things that he has going on for him is just absolutely amazing and inspiring. So shout out to Miles for the amazing episode. And if you guys haven't watched that, definitely make sure you guys check that out. But besides USA Badminton and also Badminton Canada, we finally started expanding around the world, right? Giving us a different perspective on the different systems that are run in different countries. And we started off with England, right? Team England. We had Leona on, our very first international player. Leona's story is very unique, right? Because she trained mostly with her dad. And even now, like her dad is her main head coach, despite having a national team in England. And the crazy thing is, her dad didn't have any badminton experience before. Like he wasn't a professional player, wasn't a professional coach, but he self-taught himself and then started coaching his daughter to a national champion, right? Our newly crowned national champion for women's singles. So that was an absolutely amazing story. And I think it's very interesting for parents because I know a lot of parents who try to help their kids as much as possible, obviously because they want their children to succeed. But oftentimes they become an obstacle when they're trying to help the most, right? But for Leona, her dad actually was able to do it correctly in a way that helped her become a national champion, which is very, very unique. I mean, you don't see that often. So I think Leona's story is very interesting and she is so young. So she has such a bright future ahead of her. So we're looking forward to all the things that she's going to accomplish. And obviously after Leona from Team England, we had Sean Kelly on, Leona's best friend. Sean, on the other hand, is completely different from Leona, even though they're from the same country, right? Sean went through the university system for badminton, which the US doesn't have, right? And I'm sure that Canada doesn't have either. And this is what I really wanted everybody to kind of hear is how the university system works in England and how can we in the US and Canada replicate that in a way to make it so that players who go to college can also practice badminton at the same time and graduate college, right? And I think that is crucial, especially in US and Canada, because most of the time you can't live off of just being a coach for badminton, right? You have to have education and badminton at the same time, just as a backup in case something goes wrong. So it was very cool to listen to Sean talk about the university system, how they were able to develop her through the great coaches in the universities. And then eventually, after she graduated, she was able to go into the national team very successfully and transition into a full-time professional player, right? That path, I think, is something that US and Canada can definitely learn from and implement in the coming years. But, shout out to Sean too, because Sean recently won the nationals for women's doubles, as we mentioned in the podcast. And also she made it to the quarterfinals for European championships, which is a huge accomplishment, given her age. And it's just absolutely amazing. Every year you see that growth from Sean and it's incredible. And I'm sure that following her growth in the last few years, she's going to be accomplishing great things coming up. Besides England, we also had somebody from Ukraine come on, right? Polina Borova from Ukraine, the best player right now in Ukrainian badminton. Absolutely amazing player, super fiery, explosive, fighting spirit on the court, just incredible player, right? But the one thing that stand out immediately is her experience in the Ukrainian war. Like she was there with the bombs dropping on her head. Like I think that experience is so unique, right? And the fact that she was not with her parents when the war broke out and bombs were flying overhead and she was just with her teammates at a tournament is absolutely insane. And I can't imagine the trauma that she went through. And we appreciate it so much to Paulina for opening up and sharing that with us. So definitely thank you so much, Paulina, for going back into those memories and telling us these stories. But I think it's just so inspiring from Paulina's end because she made history for Ukraine twice now after what she has experienced once in the European team championships and now in the European individual championships, winning a bronze medal. The first time a Ukrainian player medaled in European individual championships. So shout out to Polina for all the hard work that she put in and the obstacles that she had to overcome. I mean, these two medals are very well deserved. And looking forward to all the amazing things that you're going to be accomplishing in the coming months and years. But yeah, shout out to Paulina for that. It's an incredible, incredible podcast. If you guys haven't watched that, make sure you guys take a look at it, listen to her stories. It's unbelievable what she shares. And finally, we had our recent guest, which is Kevin Ba, right? And BWF certified umpire, our very first umpire on the podcast. And I think he brought a very interesting perspective that we rarely get to see in the badminton community, right? Because we don't see a lot of umpires taking interviews. They're usually in the background playing a supportive role. But I had an amazing conversation with Kevin, and also obviously he's an old friend, getting to catch up about the red card story. That was really fun. But I asked him so much about the umpire perspective, right? The different tactics that we do as a player and how that affects umpires and what they like to see, what they don't like to see, and just things like that, what they have control over and what they don't. I think understanding their perspective helps not only umpires, but also players, right? Knowing that there are certain things like diving on the court that umpires cannot avoid, but let you take a break. Maybe some players know, some players don't. So I think it's just very interesting to get an umpire's perspective on the game, because obviously they play a huge role in any match, right? And often sometimes playing a deciding factor in a lot of games. So it's definitely a perspective that we value and definitely cherish the insights that he brought. But yeah, I think overall, like the last few guests we had has been super interesting, super fun to talk to. Some of the most amazing people I met, to be honest. And I really appreciate everybody coming on and giving us your time and sharing your insights and stories with the next generation of players and also the players that are on the tour right now. So huge shout out to all of our guests. We have a lot of exciting guests that will be coming on the podcast soon. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. That is the end of the episode for today. If you guys enjoyed today's episode, make sure you hit that like button and the subscribe button down below. Show that support for the channel. Truly helps the channel grow. Also, don't forget to follow us on our socials at the TLZ Podcast to stay up to date on upcoming guests and highlights. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.